Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be starting to add some lighting to this project that I have here. Um, I think it's the same project I was using for one of the other videos, but just in case, yeah, because I used it for the terrain video. So this is the model of the house. And I want to start putting some lighting on the inside, and I want to put some exterior lighting on the outside. So I'm going to start with that. So let's go to the first floor. And one of the, what I've done already is I've downloaded a bunch of Revit city files of lights because Revit doesn't have a whole lot of lights to choose from. So these are just a bunch of different types of lights that I'm going to upload into the project. So to bring lights in, you need to go under the Systems tab. And in the Systems tab, you have HVAC systems, piping and plumbing systems, and then you have your lighting systems over here. If you're creating a power plan, you've got electrical equipment and devices that you could place to show where receptacles and switches are going. But we're going to deal with light fixtures and place light fixtures in the project so that we can do some cool renderings. Okay, so I'm going to click on the light fixtures, and let's take a look at what we already have for choices. We have recessed can lights, and then we have this pendant light, hemisphere light, which are pretty boilerplate, kind of boring. So I'm going to go to load families, and on my computer here at school, I've got a folder that I've saved these different light fixtures in. We don't have any previews because I just downloaded them, but I'm just going to bring a few in and we'll see. Actually, let me click on the ones that I think I like this one. I had to bring in a lava lamp, of course, and we want an exterior sconce. Oh, some of them are giving a preview. I think, let me see, track lighting. And well, let's see if it will let me bring them all in. Might as well. And hit open. It's probably going to tell me, no, it's not even barking at me. Great. Now, some of these lights are wall mounted and some of them are ceiling mounted. So you're going to discover that you're going to need to be in the ceiling view to place the light. So I'm going to go to the first floor view. And in the first floor view, we are now looking at a ceiling view. And you're going to discover that when we start to try to place those light fixtures, let's place a light fixture that's ceiling mounted. Let's try a pendant light. It may or may not let you place it. So it says none of the created elements are visible in the reflected ceiling plan for first floor. You may want to check the active view, its parameters and visibility settings. So we're going to see why these aren't showing, okay? And I wasn't sure if I was going to have to create a ceiling object to get the light to come in. So let me see if I can find one that is ceiling mounted and see if it will let me. Yeah, okay, so this is an example of one that's ceiling mounted, so it needs to have a ceiling for us to place that track lighting. That's why I'm getting a bullseye here. So I'm going to show you how to create a sloped ceiling, and we're going to see if we can find that light fixture and figure out why we can't see the light fixture in this view. So let me do that first. I'm going to go into view range and take a look at what the settings are. So in this ceiling view, our view depth is at 9 feet above the first floor level. The top view is also at 9 feet above the first floor level. And our cut plane's at 7 feet 6 inches. And our bottom is at 7 feet 6 inches. So we also want to know if we are looking up or down on this view. For a ceiling view, usually it's looking up right there. So it's looking up. And we can also check to see what's going on with our light fixtures, if they're turned on or off. So let's go down to the light fixtures. So light fixtures are turned on. So let's turn on light source. And we still can't see it. So I suspect that when we place that pendant, it may have placed a pendant too low in the view. So I'm going to go to our working 3D view so I can find that pendant and see where it went. And for now, just so that we don't have this big clunky terrain object to deal with, I'm going to hide the terrain object. There we go. And we're going to turn on the section box so I can find that pendant. All right, there is the pendant right there. So we want to find out why it's not showing up in that view. So let's see what height it's at. It looks like it's on first level, 0 feet 0 inches offset, but it's mounted at a height. We want to find out what height that is. I'm going to hit edit type to find that out. And it looks like, so it's not really giving me that information. So it might be something that we could find out if we opened up the family. But I'm going to change the offset to an additional, because I'm assuming that whoever made this light set it at a height of probably 8 feet where you would mount it on the ceiling. So I'm going to put this at another 2 feet above that and then see if it shows up in that first floor ceiling plan. So go to first floor ceiling plan, and there it is. So it just was that the light was below the view range for the light. So that light's not ceiling mounted, so it's happy being in that position. I'm kind of defying the laws of gravity here with this pendant light. So obviously I'd need to create something for it to hang off of. Or I'd need to be able to edit the family and adjust the height from the pendant to the mounting so that I can put it on the slope ceiling. So that might be something I'd be interested in doing if I really like this pendant light. So sometimes you're going to have to edit your families to get things to look proper in the preview or in the model itself. So let's see what happens if I open the pendant light. And I'm going to look to see in the elevation views if I've got any kind of, and clearly this came from a different country here, so I don't know what view I'm going to be seeing. So there's our answer. So this height here is set probably to the 8 feet. Let me just find out if I annotate it. And I want to change my units. So if I go into manage and go into project units, I'm going to change these units to decimal, let me see here, feet, inches, and fractions. Okay. And the area should be changed to square feet. And the volume should be changed to cubic feet. And our angles are fine. Currency doesn't really much matter. And mass density, that's changed to pounds per cubic foot. So now we've just updated everything, and then this gives you your dimension, okay? So that's coming in at 4'11". I'm going to turn that into a parameter and see if it will allow me to do that. So I'm going to create a parameter and call this a height parameter. We'll call this the pendant height. And it should be a type parameter. And I'm going to change the pendant height to 8 feet. Well, actually 6 feet, because it's actually at the pendant. And the plot thickens. So this tells us that the light source itself is attached to this pendant height, but the object, the nested object, it looks like, is not. So I need to find out how to attach that to that light source. So let's see if we can lock it in. So I'm going to annotate a line dimension from the reference plane. Let's go to like this bottom edge of the me see if it will let me pick that line. Yeah, so we don't really have anything that I can use for a reference. Maybe that's going to let me use it as a reference. And let's set this to 0. And we want to lock that. Now let's see if we change our height. Yes, perfect. So now it's responding to the height that we want. So we're going to have a little bit more control over this when we get it into the Revit file. So in order to mount this, I think we'd have to get a little bit more involved in this, probably explode this, and then be able to apply a parameter to the height of this to get that to work as well. But we could just make adjustments to this if we wanted to. I'm not going to bother because I think you understand now. It would take a little bit more time for me to explode this and then make this adjustable so that I could change the height of it. But I just wanted to show you how sometimes when you get into these things, you get some unexpected settings, and how we can take something and still make some modifications and see if it's going to work for us. All right, so I'm going to save this and save it as the same name I had before. So when I load it in, it will overwrite the existing version, and that should move that pendant up a little bit. And now I can set this to a specific height. And I know that at 0, the pendant itself is at 6 feet above our height. So if I go back to that first floor ceiling plan, I am going to do an underlay here so I can see the first floor. Let me do that. I'm not sure. Perfect. So now I can take that lamp or that light fixture and put it over the island. So let's look back at the 3D view, and that looks pretty good. Okay, so there's one light fixture. Let's see if we can get our track lighting in there. So I'm going to put some track lighting up here, and we'll have it directed down at the sitting space. So I'm going to go back to that first floor view, and just as I showed you before, when I go into systems and go into the light fixture, when we picked our track lighting, it doesn't let us place it. So what we have to do is create a slope ceiling. So let's create the slope ceiling by, first of all, creating a ceiling to begin with. So I'm going to go back into the first floor view, and I want to create a ceiling, and I'm going to edit the type here and duplicate it and just set this to be gypsum wallboard. So I'm just laying a layer of gypsum wallboard on the underside of the rafters. So the gypsum wallboard needs to move into the core boundary, and then the structure needs to get deleted. And we're keeping that gypsum wallboard at 1/2 inch. All right, so now I'm going to create the ceiling, and I will use the walls as my reference. And I'm making sure I'm picking the walls and not the curtain walls here in this example. So I used curtain walls for my project. And then we'll trim that up. And I just want to make sure that the ceiling is actually showing up inside the building space. So it should be attached to that outside face of stud, which is what I'm just fixing right now. All right, all set. So we hit the checkbox, and when we get into our 3D view, we're going to see that the ceiling's not quite right, and we want it to slope with this roof. So I'm going to select the roof to find out what the pitch is. It's a 412 pitch. And what I will use is slope arrows to create the slope of the ceiling so that it matches the slope of the roof. And that way we have that gypsum wallboard layer following the length of the rafters all the way through. So we'll go back to that first floor view, and I want to select this. So actually I have to select it here, and then we'll go back to that first floor view, and we're going to edit the boundary. So I want to create a slope arrow that goes from here all the way to the back. And then when you select the slope arrow, I want it to be defined by slope, and I want it to have a 412 pitch. And that should do it for us. So we hit the checkbox. Let's see if that worked. We'll go to the 3D working view, and it did, but the height of the ceiling is a little too high. And I believe we can fix it by just using the align tool. So I'm going to align the bottom side of the rafter with the top side of the ceiling. See if that worked. Looks like it didn't quite hit the right spot, so let's try that again. We'll use align, hit that edge and this edge. There we go. And now we have a ceiling that's attached to the underside of the rafters, and I should be able to place those track lights now. So if I go to the first floor plan, ceiling plan, pick those light fixtures, which should be the same ones that are there, I should now be able to place them. Light fixtures, let's see. All right, none of the created elements are visible in the reflected view. And let's see. That's interesting. It's not showing up. Okay. So for some reason, it's not showing up at certain spots. It's because the ceiling height is so much higher here, and it's low enough here for us to be able to see it. It looks like we've got only two directions that the light fixtures can go in. I'm just going to place 3 right here, and we'll put one in that area and one over the. I'm going to just put another pendant light over the dining space. I'm just going to copy this over to here. All right, let's take a look in the 3D view and see if those track lights are up there. Not exactly the most beautiful track light placement, but I think you get the idea. We could be a little bit more specific about it if we wanted to. So let's see how this looks. So I'm going to render this view just the way it is right now, cut open. Let's try it in this direction. Let's make a camera view. So I'm going to go to the first floor, and under view, create a camera view, and let's put ourselves kind of hanging out here in the sitting area, looking towards the kitchen and dining space. And I want to get enough of that track lighting to be able to see it. And I'm going to switch this over to a ray trace view so we get a sense of what it's going to look like, just like that. And now I want to render this. So when I want to render it, always render without doing anything first so that you see what you get. So I'm going to go under the Manage tool. Actually, I got to get out of Ray Trace here. That gave me enough information. Stop. Okay. Set this to just realistic for now. Okay, so we want to go under Manage, and where's Render? Maybe it's under View. There it is, View. I want to render this view. I want to set the view to a medium setting for now, and this is where we can control how our lighting gets rendered. So I want to set this to Sun and Artificial, and let's go ahead and render it and see what we get. There's a lot of waiting in Revit when you're rendering. I'll make sure to pause this the next time so you're not waiting for me to render. All right, so then once it's rendered, what's cool is I can still go in here and adjust exposure. So I can change and increase, make the shadows lighter, darker, and you can see that that dramatically changes the image. I can make the white point cooler. That makes everything look a little bit more blue or warmer, makes everything look a little bit more yellow. Highlights will increase these highlight spots. So if I really dramatically do that, it gets way too bright. Or I can make them darker if I want it to make it a little bit more dramatic. And then you have your exposure value. So darker exposure value and a much brighter exposure value will look overexposed. And so you're looking for something that gives you the right kind of balance. And somewhere around there looks like it would be good for me, because now we're seeing some of those interior lights fairly well. Now this light fixture doesn't seem to be lighting up, so it might not have a light element set up properly within it, so that would be something that we want to edit. But you can see that these light fixtures here already have built-in lights that are doing things that they should be doing, although I'm not 100% sure that they're facing the right direction. So again, you get what you get from Revit City, and you're not sure how it's going to behave. But that's how we can control exposure control and get a better quality image. And then once you fiddle around with it enough, you can try out some other things. So another idea would be to set this to just artificial only, and then you'll have to render it again. This time I'll pause. All right, so this is what it looks like with the sun turned off, basically, and so you can dramatically see the lights from the inside doing their work now. And again, you can adjust exposure. Let's make the shadows a little darker, make the highlights a little brighter, and then we're going to make the white point a little cooler. And then I think I want to set the exposure control a little bit brighter. Maybe not. Maybe we want more contrast. Maybe it was just right the way it was. So those are the tools that you have to control in Revit. The last piece you can do once you've decided the kind of rendering you want is then take the time to render a best image, and the quality of the image should improve. You won't see such sharp lines here for the edges of the lights, and you'll get hopefully a better result. But don't waste your time with best until you've fiddled around with medium and gotten something that you think is halfway decent. The best time can take probably upwards of 20 minutes if you've got a lot of lights and a lot of algorithms for the software to have to calculate through. So hopefully that gives you a little bit more in depth on how to deal with lighting and some rendering elements within your project.